You weren't made to fit in. You were made to fracture the illusion, to walk through a world built on lies and not only see the truth, but become it. They tried to make you forget, tried to tame your fire with fear, your clarity with noise. From the moment you opened your eyes, they fed you names that were never yours, identities stitched together by strangers with trembling hands and shallow hearts. But you were not made for their comfort. You were made for confrontation, not of people, but of shadows. The ones that live in your own mind, the ones you inherited before you could even speak. Generational curses disguised as tradition, social prisons masquerading as normal, psychological warfare waged on your soul while you smiled for pictures. You were made to remember, and remembering hurts. It shatters the mirror they handed you. It tears holes in the stories you thought were sacred. But that pain, that is not punishment. That is rebirth. You are not breaking, you are burning. And fire does not apologize for being fire. Do you understand what you were made for? Not survival, not smallness, not silence. You were made for syphoria, the psychological euphoria that emerges when the mind finally aligns with its true self, not the self they applauded, not the self you performed, the original self, the one buried beneath fear, beneath shame, beneath all the noise. Carl Jung called it individuation, the process of becoming whole, the integration of shadow and light, instinct and intellect, beast and spirit. It is not self-improvement. It is self-reclamation. But let me warn you, the journey is brutal because the world doesn't want you whole. The world profits from your fragmentation. Entire industries exist to keep you confused, addicted, obedient. But clarity? Clarity is rebellion. And clarity begins with mindset. Not the pop psychology nonsense they sell on social media. Not the fake positivity you paste over your despair. Mindset isn't smiling while drowning. It's deciding that you will swim even with broken limbs. Even when the storm laughs at your strength, mindset is not a quote. It's a war cry. It says, even if I was born into chaos, I will build order. Even if I was raised in silence, I will speak truth. Even if I was shaped by fear, I will move anyway. Because belief is a weapon, not a wish, not a dream, a weapon. And you better choose carefully what you believe, because it will become your master. Most people are slaves to beliefs they never questioned. They wear chains made of shoulds, musts, have-tos. But those words, they're illusions. The truth is this: you are allowed to redesign your mind right now, without permission. Your old beliefs are not sacred. They are not facts. They are stories. And every story can be rewritten. But first, you must get clear. Clarity is not found in comfort, it's found in collapse. When everything you thought was real begins to dissolve your titles, your roles, your masks, and all that's left is silence. That's where truth lives. In the quiet, in the stillness between identities. That is where vision is born. Not a vision they gave you. Not a 5-year plan. A soul vision. A vision so deep it terrifies you, because it demands your full becoming. It doesn't just ask what you want to do, it asks who you are willing to become to do it. That's the real question. Who are you willing to become? Not for applause, not for money, but because your soul won't let you do anything else. You weren't made to chase safety. You were made to chase truth. And truth will cost you. It will cost you your comfort, your certainty, your fake friends, your illusions. But what you gain is yourself. That's purpose. Purpose is not found, it's forged. In the heat of rejection, in the sting of failure, in the fire of becoming. You don't discover your purpose. You decide it. and then you fight like hell to protect it. But don't get it twisted. Discipline is what keeps it alive, not motivation. Motivation dies quickly. Discipline endures. Discipline is devotion to your future self. It's loyalty to a life you haven't built yet, but refuse to die without building. Discipline is self-respect in action. It's saying, even if I don't feel like it, I will still show up, because I know what I'm building matters. And what are you building? Not a career, not a brand, a legacy, a soul print on this earth that whispers, I was here fully, fiercely, and without apology. But legacy doesn't happen in the mind, it happens in motion. Action is the alchemy. Action is where fantasy becomes form. Without action, even the clearest vision is just a hallucination. And every time you hesitate, you give your future away to fear. So move. Move while it's messy. Move while it's uncertain. Move before you feel ready, because clarity comes after action, not before. Every step forward is a vote for your becoming. And when you move, move with gratitude. Not the shallow kind, not the Instagram captions. I'm talking about sacred gratitude, the kind that humbles you, the kind that wakes you up in the morning and says, thank you for this breath. Thank you for another chance to build. Thank you for the pain, because it refined me. Because pain is not punishment, it is purification. You weren't made to escape pain. You were made to transcend it, to walk through the fire and emerge clearer, sharper, wiser. That's resilience. Not bouncing back, that's too small for you. You weren't made to bounce back, you were made to rise above. You were made to transform setbacks into strategies, scars into scriptures, wounds into wisdom. You are not fragile. You are not broken. You are becoming. And the ones who become, they adapt. They don't cling to who they were. They shed it. They outgrow it. They evolve, even when it hurts. Because staying the same is far more painful than change. And adaptation is not betrayal of the past. It is loyalty to the future. This world is not stable. It never was. But you don't need stability. You need alignment. Alignment with your nature, your genius, your power. Because when you align with truth, you become inevitable. But to become inevitable, you must become a student. Lifelong, unapologetic, relentless. Because ignorance is expensive, and arrogance will bankrupt your soul. But learning, that is the fountain of youth. Not just learning facts, learning yourself, learning your patterns, your pain, your projections. Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. So make it conscious. Bring light to the shadow. Name what haunts you. Claim what strengthens you. Forgive what bound you. And never forget, you were never made for mediocrity. You were made to remember your fire, your force, your truth. Not the truth they gave you, the one that was always yours. The one buried beneath noise, fear, shame, distraction, performance. The one whispering in your quietest moments, there is more. You were made for more, not to consume it, to become it. This is not a motivational speech. This is a mirror. Look closely. Not at what they told you to be, not at what they applauded. Look at the you behind the performance. The unfiltered, untamed, unshakable you. That is what you were made for. Not perfection, but presence. Not applause, but alignment. Not survival, but sovereignty. And sovereignty begins now. So breathe in, not the shallow breath of someone trying to stay unnoticed. Breathe like a creator, like someone who knows the world is not happening to them, but through them. That every breath you take is a declaration, I am here, I am awake, I am not waiting anymore. This is not a rehearsal. This is not a draft. This is the real thing. Right now, your choices are carving out the architecture of your destiny. Your thoughts are laying bricks. Your habits are pouring the foundation. Every excuse is a crack. Every act of courage, a beam of steel. And one day sooner than you think, you will live inside what you've built. So the question is not, what do you want? The question is, what are you willing to become responsible for? Responsibility is not a burden. It's a throne. And most people fear it because they've been taught that freedom means avoiding responsibility. But the opposite is true. You are only as free as you are responsible. You are only as powerful as you are willing to own your impact. And your impact is not just what you do, it's who you become. Your presence is a message. Your energy enters the room before your words ever do. What does it say? Does it whisper insecurity or raw conviction? Does it blend in or does it restructure the atmosphere? Because that's what you were made for. Not to be liked, but to lead. Not in title, not in status in essence. Leadership isn't control. Leadership is clarity in motion. It's the ability to walk through fire, through betrayal, through heartbreak, and still be a mirror of truth. Still hold your vision while everything around you crumbles. The world does not need more influencers. It needs architects of reality. People who do not beg for approval. People who will not sell their soul for visibility. People who will build something so real, so rooted, that even the winds of collapse cannot move it. That's what you were made for. To build, but not just with your hands, with your mind, with your integrity, with your conviction. Because when the world forgets what's real, it will look to you. You must be the reminder. You must be the rooted one, the unmoved one, the one who still chooses truth when it's unpopular, the one who still chooses vision when it's unclear, the one who still chooses love, fierce, radical, self-respecting love, even when it would be easier to turn cold. That's strength, not armor. Integration. You don't have to shut down your heart to protect your mind. You don't have to abandon your depth to survive this surface-level culture. Let the world be shallow, you be oceans. Because in your depth is your power. In your stillness is your strategy. And in your presence is your revolution. The revolution is not external. It's not in systems. It's in souls. One awakened mind disrupts 1,000 asleep. One whole person creates a ripple that transforms cities. Your wholeness is not selfish. It is service. When you heal, you break cycles. When you speak, you shatter silence. When you act, you activate others. You were made to be an activator, a lighthouse, not a savior, not a fixer, a signal. Not look at me, but remember who you are. That's what your life can become, a living, breathing reminder. But only if you choose it. Only if you stop negotiating with your fear and start commanding your future. Only if you stop waiting for the right moment and realize you are the moment. Stop asking permission. The world is waiting for someone to go first. You go first. You walk into the silence and speak. You walk into the pain and create. You walk into the fire and rise. That's how you lead. Not with words, but with embodiment. Don't just talk about strength. Be it. Don't just wish for confidence. Train it. Don't just admire greatness. Build it. It's not out there. It's in you. Buried under stories that were never yours. Buried under opinions that were never earned. Buried under expectations that were never questioned. Burn them all. Let the fire cleanse. Let the fear tremble. Because the one rising from those ashes, that's the real you. And they've never met that version. They've only met your masks. They've only met the version you crafted to stay safe. The one that smiles while shrinking. The one that agrees while aching. The one that dimmed her light because someone told her it was too much. But too much for who? For the blind? For the broken? For the ones still hiding? Let them hide. You shine. You dare. You were not made to be palatable. You were made to be powerful. And real power, not control, not performance, real power is magnetic. It doesn't chase. It commands. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to prove your worth. You don't need to earn your existence. You are, and that is enough. That is everything. You were not made to beg for space. You were made to take up space, to expand, to elevate, to electrify, to walk into a room and remind it that divinity wears human skin, that God speaks through bold action, that the soul is louder than the algorithm, and that truth, real truth, your truth, cannot be cancelled. So stop waiting to be chosen. You are the chosen. And your only task now is to choose yourself back. Because this world will not hand you your becoming. It will resist it. It will mock it. It will try to seduce you with comfort, conformity, and compromise. But you weren't made for any of that. You were made for revelation, to reveal what's been hidden, to remember what was buried, to restore what was stolen. So don't shrink. Don't pause. Don't postpone your power one more second. Step into it. Bleed for it. Burn for it. Because this is the truth about what you were made for. You were made to awaken the world by awakening yourself. And that awakening, it's not a light switch. It's a reckoning. It doesn't arrive gently. It crashes. It roars. It rips you open from the inside out and demands your full attention. Awakening doesn't ask politely. It grabs you by the soul and says, everything you thought was real, let it die. And you either obey or you rot in illusion. You were not made to rot. You were not made to sleepwalk through this life in a body that's alive, but a spirit that's numb. You were not made to drown in digital distraction, to measure your worth by the reactions of strangers, to feed on dopamine and call it joy. You were made to feel wildly, deeply, ferociously, even the pain, especially the pain, because the pain you've been running from is the very thing that will set you free. If you let it teach you, if you stop medicating it with avoidance and start transmuting it with awareness. You've been taught to fear your emotions, to suppress, to sanitize, to pretend. But your emotions are not the enemy. They are the compass. They are the doorway into your unconscious. And your unconscious, that's where your soul hides. Jung didn't say, follow the crowd. He said, know your darkness. He said, until you face what you don't want to see, it will rule your life. And isn't that what you feel sometimes? That something invisible has been steering the wheel? That your patterns have been living your life for you? But you are not your patterns. You are the awareness behind them. And the moment you realize that, the moment you own that, you become dangerous. Because awareness is liberation. Once you see the game, you can't unsee it. Once you know the lie, you can't unknow it. And once you touch the edge of your potential, you'll never fit back into a life of quiet desperation. That's why most people never wake up. Because waking up costs everything. It costs your comfort, your excuses, your victimhood, your illusion of control. But it gives you yourself, raw, radiant, real, And when you become real, you become unstoppable. Not because you're perfect, but because you're authentic. And authenticity in the world of performers is revolutionary. Do you hear me? You are the revolution. Not in your hashtags, not in your aesthetics, in your being. When you decide to stop living as a version of yourself that makes others comfortable and instead live as the wildfire you were born to be, you set the world ablaze. And some will try to put it out. Let them. Some will call it too much. Be too much. Some will try to shrink you, shame you, silence you. Let them try. But never, never let them succeed. Because every time you silence yourself for them, you betray yourself. And the truth is, you've betrayed yourself enough times already. You've stayed in places you outgrew. You've said yes when your soul was screaming no. You've hidden your genius behind humility. You've dimmed your fire to avoid making others feel cold. But you're not responsible for their warmth. You are responsible for your truth. And your truth, it's nuclear. It doesn't just set you free, it sets others free too. Because when one person walks in truth, it gives others permission to do the same. And that is why you must rise. Not just for you, for every soul watching you in silence, waiting to see if courage is possible. Show them it is. Not with perfection, with presence, with ownership, with a spine made of conviction and a heart that still feels deeply. Because the truth is, the world doesn't change when perfect people arrive. The world changes when authentic people refuse to hide. So stop hiding. The hiding ends here. The shame ends here. The waiting ends here. You know too much now. You feel too much now. You are too alive to go back to pretending you're not. So step into the chaos of becoming, the chaos of unbecoming, the sacred mess of transforming into what you were always meant to be. You were not made for neatness. You were not made for predictability. You were made for transcendence, to rise through what should have broken you, to breathe in the ashes and exhale new worlds, to walk through your own shadow and come back with the light. This is what you were made for. This is why you're still breathing. Not to pay bills and die politely. Not to shrink and call it peace. Not to numb your soul and call it self-care. You were made to create, to disrupt, to embody something eternal in a temporary world. You were made to speak when others whisper, to move when others freeze, to love with a ferocity that scares the ones who've only known control. And that love, that's your secret weapon. Because the final level of power is love, not the soft, sweet kind that asks for nothing, but the blazing, holy kind that says, I see you, I see your pain, I see your potential, and I refuse to let you stay small. That's the love that changes things. That's the love you owe yourself. That's the love the world has been starving for. And you are the source. So stop outsourcing your power. Stop waiting for signs. You are the sign. You are the symbol. You are the storm. You are the stillness after it. You are what the world has been waiting for. You are what your ancestors bled for. You are what the next generation will rise from. You are the breaking and the building, the death and the rebirth. You are the fire, the forge, the flame. You are the reminder. You are the truth. This is what you were made for. Now rise and be it. You think you have time? You don't. Not in the way you've been pretending, not in the endless tomorrows you've been gambling your soul on. Time is not your servant, it is your mirror. And every second you waste in hesitation, in distraction, in doubt, it reflects back what you truly believe you're worth. The clock doesn't lie. Your actions don't lie. Your life, exactly as it is right now, is the loudest confession of your beliefs. Not your words, not your plans, but your patterns. And if those patterns are shaped by fear, you are worshipping a God that never saved anyone. Because fear is not holy. Fear is not love. Fear is the religion of the asleep. But you are not asleep anymore. You are waking. You are remembering that safety was never the goal. That the real mission isn't to be safe, it's to be whole. And wholeness doesn't come from playing small. It comes from stepping into the arena, bleeding truth, standing naked in your conviction and saying, "This is who I am. Take it or tremble." You don't negotiate with your essence. You don't dilute your depth so others can stay shallow. You don't compromise your calling because mediocrity is louder than wisdom. You rise. And when you rise, really rise, everything changes. Your energy shifts, your voice deepens, your eyes sharpen. You stop waiting for permission because you become the permission. You stop rehearsing who you should be because you remember who you are. Not a role, not a resume, a force. A force that was made to disrupt the slumbering masses. A force that was made to speak in frequencies that make the false identities of others tremble. A force that cannot be touched by systems because it's rooted in the soul. But the soul needs one thing to be seen: space. Space to breathe, space to burn, space to bloom without explanation. You've been suffocating in obligations that were never yours. You've been drowning in tasks that are not your truth. You've been saying yes to people who have never seen you, and the price is your aliveness. But aliveness is your birthright. It is why you were made. And that means you must protect it like it's sacred. Because it is. You cannot keep trading your fire for their comfort. You cannot keep sacrificing your purpose at the altar of politeness. You cannot keep feeding your genius to the wolves of conformity. This is your line in the sand. This is your soul drawing a blade and saying, no more. No more hiding. No more dimming. No more apologizing for the space you take up, the truth you speak, the light you radiate. If they call it arrogance, let them. If they call it rebellion, let them. If they call it madness, let them. You were never made to be understood by the ones still asleep. You were made to awaken the ones ready to rise. You were made to speak words that sting, not soothe. To hold up a mirror to the masks. To disrupt their comfort with clarity. And clarity, my friend, clarity is violence to illusion. You will be attacked. You will be misunderstood. You will be left behind by those who only knew your past self. Let them leave, because the path ahead, it's not crowded, it's not safe, but it's real, and only the real can walk it. Only the ones who've divorced their need to be liked. Only the ones who'd rather die as their truth than live as someone else's lie. That's who this path is for, and that's who you are. So keep walking, even if your knees shake, even if your voice trembles, even if your past tries to drag you back with soft lies and familiar pain. You keep walking, and as you walk, you'll realize something wild. You were never lost. You were never broken. You were simply becoming. And now that you see it, now that you feel it in your bones, you must protect it. You must protect your energy like your life depends on it, because it does. You must protect your time from thieves dressed as urgency. You must protect your dreams from people who only know how to destroy what they're too afraid to build. And most of all, you must protect your frequency, because your frequency is your future. You're not just attracting what you want, you're attracting what you are. So, what are you vibrating? Are you vibrating clarity, conviction, truth? Or are you still tuned to the static of fear? Change the channel. Turn up the volume on your soul and mute the world. Mute the noise. Mute the fear-mongering. Mute the mediocrity disguised as normal life. Because what they call normal, it's death with a heartbeat. And you were made for more than survival. You were made for transcendence. You were made to pierce the veil between who you are and who you were told to be and step through it, fully awake, fully on fire, fully you. You were made to walk unrecognizable to the person you used to be. You were made to turn your wounds into weapons, your scars into symbols, your silence into sacred speech. You were made to build the new world inside your bones. And if you're still wondering what that word looks like, close your eyes. Breathe deep. Listen. It's been whispering to you all along. You were made for this. You were made for this storm. Not to be destroyed by it. To become it. To stand in the middle of everything, crumbling relationships, beliefs, careers, false identities, and not just survive the collapse, but thrive inside it. To find your center while the world spins mad. To hear your soul in the screaming silence. That storm you're in, it's not here to end you. It's here to initiate you. You thought you were being punished. You were being chosen. Because only the chosen ones are thrown into fires hot enough to forge steel. Only the warriors are handed chaos as their curriculum. And what they don't tell you is this. When you stop running from the chaos, when you step into it willingly, everything changes. You stop being the victim of life and you start becoming the alchemist. You stop saying, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, what power is this trying to activate in me? And power doesn't come gently. It doesn't show up wrapped in pretty paper. It comes through betrayal. It comes through heartbreak. It comes through solitude so deafening you have no choice but to meet yourself in it. And when you meet yourself, truly, you realize you've been starving. Starving for truth. Starving for meaning. Starving for a life that doesn't feel like a slow death. And when you taste truth for the first time, raw, unfiltered truth, you'll never go back. You'll walk away from anything that tastes fake. You'll burn bridges that lead to cages. You'll leave rooms that require your silence to stay. Because once you've met the real you, the wild one, the knowing one, the one who remembers, you can't go back to pretending. You can't shrink anymore. You can't unsee the brilliance that's been buried beneath your people-pleasing and perfectionism. You can't keep betraying yourself for the approval of people who don't even know themselves. So you stop. You stop entertaining conversations that drain you. You stop explaining yourself to the unwilling. You stop proving your worth to those committed to misunderstanding you. And in that stopping, you start. You start walking with a different posture. You start speaking from your gut, not your mask. You start moving like someone who knows they carry worlds inside them. Because you do. You carry blueprints for new realities. You carry ideas that can reshape destinies. You carry light so ancient it terrifies the ones who've built empires in the dark. And yes, they will fear you. They'll try to mock you, minimize you, box you in, because people who've buried their own potential despise the ones who live it out loud. But don't dim for their comfort. Don't dilute to be digestible. Don't erase your edges to fit into their dull, dead boxes. Let them choke on your radiance if they have to. You were not made to be palatable. You were made to be unforgettable. The kind of unforgettable that stays with someone in their quietest hour. The kind that echoes in their chest after you've walked away. The kind that rearranges people not with volume, but with vibration. And your vibration is rising now, isn't it? Can you feel it? Can you feel the electricity behind these words? That's not me. That's you waking up. You cells are remembering. Your soul is remembering. Your future is remembering itself through you. You're not reading this by accident. You didn't stumble here. You were called. Called back to yourself. Called back to the throne you abandoned. Called back to the fire you left behind when the world told you it was too much. Too loud. Too intense. Too different. But what if your too much was never a flaw? What if it was your superpower? What if the very things they try to beat out of you, your depth, your discernment, your refusal to settle, are the exact things this world needs most? It doesn't need more agreeable people. It needs awakened giants, giants who walk into systems built on silence and speak truth anyway. Giants who feel the fear and rise anyway. Giants who stop waiting for the world to change and become the change. And to do that, you must release everything in you that was trained to shrink. You must release the shame that was never yours. Release the voices that never knew your name. Release the guilt you inherited from people who were too afraid to rise. You must die to who you were told to be, so you can live as who you really are. That's what this is. Not motivation, metamorphosis. You're not being inspired. You're being reborn. And with every sentence you breathe in, you're shedding the false skin, shedding the inherited beliefs, shedding the fear that kept your wings clipped. You were never meant to crawl. You were engineered to fly, and not just fly soar, above the noise, above the drama, above the petty games of approval and applause. You weren't made to fight for a seat at that table. You were made to build your own kingdom, stone by stone, truth by truth, choice by choice. And the first choice, claim yourself, unconditionally, unapologetically, unshakably. Look in the mirror tonight and say, I choose me, the wild me, the real me, the untamed, unstoppable, unshamed me. And then act like it, because the world doesn't need another echo. It needs a voice. And you, my friend, you are that voice. Now speak, louder, bolder, truer, until your own soul hears you and says, finally, you've returned. And in that return, you don't come back quietly. You come back like thunder. You come back like prophecy fulfilled, like the roar of every silenced dream crashing through the dam of delay. You don't just exist. You announce yourself with your energy, with your standards, with your refusal to be anything less than exactly what you are. Do you know what you are? You are not potential. You are power, not a whisper, a war drum, not an echo of the word, a command to rise above it. Everywhere you go, people will feel it before they understand it. They will feel your presence in the way time bends when you enter a room. They will feel it in the way silence expands around your words. Because your frequency is not just noise, it's truth. And truth doesn't need permission to exist. It just is. Like you. You are no longer asking, who am I to lead? You now ask, who am I not to? Because the crown is not on your head, it's in your blood. You've been trained by fire, initiated by rejection, tempered by betrayal, awakened by your own silence. And now you wear your scars like scripture. They are not shameful. They are sacred. They are proof that you stayed when it was easier to vanish, that you rose when it made more sense to stay broken, that you chose growth over comfort again and again and again, and now it's your time to build. But not just structures, not just businesses, not just brands, worlds, inner worlds, outer worlds, realities stitched together with vision, faith, and relentless execution. You will build environments so nourishing that people will walk into your presence and remember who they are. You will be the permission slip they didn't know they were waiting for. Because nothing speaks louder than a human who has come home to themselves. Not with arrogance, with sovereignty. The quiet, unshakable knowing that you no longer owe anyone your smallness. The peace that comes when you no longer trade authenticity for inclusion. The fire that burns clean, not to destroy, but to purify. Let that fire burn now. Let it devour every limitation. Let it torch every excuse, every story that says, not yet, not good enough, not ready. You are ready. You've always been. Not ready because you're flawless. Ready because you're willing. Willing to lose who you were, to become who you must. Willing to outgrow identities like old skins. Willing to outlove, outlast, outwork, outbelieve every version of you that played it safe. The version of you that settled for crumbs because you were too afraid to ask for the feast. That version, you don't hate them. You thank them because they kept you alive long enough to arrive here. But now, they're no longer invited into your future because your future is not built with fear. It is built with fire, and it is demanding your full arrival. This is not a rehearsal. This is not a warm-up round. This is your life. And it will either become a monument to your soul or a museum of your fears. You choose, and the moment you choose fully, life begins to rearrange itself. People fall away. New ones arrive. Opportunities appear that once seemed locked behind invisible doors because you no longer knock. You build the door. You no longer ask. You become the answer. You no longer search for the path. You forge it. And that forging, it's sacred. Every late night you stayed awake questioning. Every tear you never let fall. Every dream you tucked away because no one else could see it. They were all preparation. Because now it's your time to not just dream, but demolish the walls that kept those dreams imprisoned. To not just hope, but harness your will and move mountains. You were made for more than visualization boards and morning affirmations. You were made to stand on the battlefield of life, sword drawn, soul anchored, voice steady and win. And not just for yourself, but for everyone watching silently. The child you used to be, the one who was told to sit down, shut up, and not take up too much space. The version of you who bent over backwards for love that didn't know how to love back. The dreamer in someone else's audience watching you right now, whispering, could I be that brave someday? Do it for them. Do it for every version of you that prayed for someone to go first. Because you are the one they've been waiting for. Not the flawless one, the fearless one. Not the perfect one, the present one. The one who says, I won't abandon myself again. Not for anyone, not for anything. The one who carries purpose like a flame in their chest and walks like every step is sacred. Because it is. Because you are. And now, with everything in you awakened, you must do the one thing this world fears most. Be fully, completely, unapologetically you. Because once you become you, the real you, the world will never be the same again. Not because you demanded it to change, but because your very existence, in truth, in fullness, in radiance, becomes a gravitational force. The world cannot help but orbit what is real. And you, when you stop hiding, stop performing, stop waiting, you become undeniable. You walk differently, not with arrogance with origin. There is a kind of presence that cannot be manufactured. It's earned in silence, in shadows, in solitude. The kind of presence born from falling apart and choosing to build yourself from the ashes with your own bare hands. And those ashes, that darkness you came through, do not be ashamed of them. Do not tuck them away like sins you must atone for. Wear them, not like chains, but like armor, because they made you, not the light, the dark. It is the dark that gave you sight, that taught you to see without eyes, to trust the ache in your gut more than the smile on someone's face, to hear the silence between words, the truth no one dared speak aloud. You were not broken in the dark. You were built there. built with pain, with patience, with a kind of wisdom that textbooks could never hold. And that wisdom, it is your sword now, not to cut others, but to cut away what no longer belongs. The roles, the lies, the limitations, the false identities clinging to your skin like dust. Sweep them off. Stand naked in your knowing. This is who I am. Not the one you remember. Not the one you tried to shape. Not the version who lived for your validation. This is the wild, the untamed, the unfiltered truth incarnate. And if it makes you uncomfortable, good. Growth always begins in discomfort. Let them squirm. Let them doubt. Let them whisper. Because while they gossip, you build. While they stall, you move. While they shrink from the light, you become it. You stop explaining your transformation to those still in love with your old form. You stop proving your value to people who couldn't even hold their own. You stop shrinking to fit the script you've outgrown. You write a new script with blood, with breath, with boundaries. Because now you know you are the author. You always were. You were made for depth, not the shallow validation of trend-chasing applause. You were made for substance, not the sugary high of empty praise. You were made for legacy, the kind that echoes long after your voice goes quiet. And legacies, they are not built by the timid. They are built by those who refuse to wait, refuse to ask, refuse to soften their edges just to be digestible. You are not here to be liked. You are here to light fires, to walk into rooms and shift the air, to breathe life into dead spaces, to remind people what it looks like to be awake. And yes, it will cost you your comfort, your certainty, the illusion of belonging to spaces that never saw you anyway. But the return is everything. Because in the end, the only question that matters is, did you become what you were made for? Did you honor the fire or smother it? Did you chase shadows or truth? Did you perform or did you embody? Did you rise? And if your answer is yes, not just in words, but in action, then you will walk into the unknown not as a victim of fate, but as its author, because fate doesn't write itself. You do, with your choices, with your defiance, with your grit, with your grace, with every single time you said, I will not quit. You're still here, breathing, choosing, becoming. And if no one told you today, you're doing it. You're becoming the one your soul knew you could be. Don't stop. Not now. Not ever. Because the truth is, this is what you were made for. No more questions. No more shrinking. No more waiting for some sign from the sky. You are the sign. You are the proof. You are the miracle walking. Now go. Be the storm that clears the way. Be the light they couldn't dim. Be the truth that frees generations. Be exactly what you were made for. And never ever apologize for it.